see you. You doing well? Test. Okay. That's right. Dark in here.
Those might be turned down a little bit, yeah.
Well, I think it's this right here. Is
Could
it
be, yeah.
over the camera or something?
Could be. Seems like we're good here.
Council, you ready? Patrick, you ready? We live? Yep. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the July 6th Madison City Council meeting. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast live on our YouTube channel and also recorded for archiving. We'll first stand and remove our caps if you have any and recite the Lord's Prayer, pledge of allegiance. We'll get into the agenda. Thank you. Our Father, who art in heaven,
hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Kevin All, here. Creech,
Here.
Lucy DeTillo,
Here.
Bartlett,
Here.
Dan DeTillo,
Here.
and Rampy and Chatham have excused absences.
Okay, moving into the agenda, we'll have the approval of the minutes from the June 22nd council meeting. Council, have you had an opportunity to review the minutes? If so, we'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Okay. First up on our agenda is proposed amendment to the zoning map, so I'll let our council take that over.
This is ordinance number 2021-9, sponsored by Councilwoman Rampy. It's an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, amending the zoning map of the City of Madison, Indiana. Whereas there has been a recommendation made by the City of Madison Plan Commission to the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, to amend the zoning map of the City of Madison, Indiana. Whereas the Madison Plan Commission has voted to recommend to the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that the zoning of the following described property be changed from low-density residential to heavy manufacturing, and heavy manufacturing to low-density residential. Hutchinson Lane, 488 Hutchinson Lane. Whereas it is in the best interest of the City of Madison, Indiana, and its citizens that the zoning map be amended accordingly. And whereas the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana concurs with the recommendations submitted to it by the Plan Commission. Now therefore be it ordained by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, that Section 1, the City of Madison zoning map, be amended so that the zoning for the following described property be changed from low-density residential, R4, and heavy manufacturing M2 to strictly low-density residential, R4, and that's 488 Hutchinson Lane. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after this date. The foregoing ordinance was passed and adopted by the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana.
Council, that was just first reading, so that'll be on your future agenda. Are there any reports, recommendations, or other business from standing or select study committees of the City Council? Hearing none. We do not have a reports of city officials this evening. However, I did invite Troy Morgan, who is the Director of Jefferson County Emergency Management Agency, to speak to you tonight with regards to our ongoing flood recovery efforts. And Dave Adams is also here to talk about the emergency recovery efforts that are, emergency relief and recovery efforts that are ongoing. So might invite Troy and Dave to come to the podium as well.
Evening, Council. The mayor asked that I just kind of give you guys a brief update of where we've been and where we are, and I don't really want to say where we're going yet because we're not real sure about that just yet. Emergency management's primary responsibility at the time that something like this happens is first and foremost the public safety and helping the local first responders get those affected out into safety and whatnot. And after that was done early on Saturday morning, we moved into the next area of responsibility, which is damage assessment. Damage assessment is done in multiple phases. Our agency was there early Saturday morning. The local assessment is swift and usually done by an exterior assessment or an exterior examination. We can tell very quickly, just almost by driving by, much less walking down the sidewalk or down the street, what the assessment of that area, that geographic location, that building, that structure, that address, whatever it is that we're looking at, whether it's a park or a building or green space or whatever the case may be. The telltale characteristic of that is a water line or a mud line, and then depending upon how high that mud line is, whether it affected the utilities at that address, and then that determines what category of damage that was sustained by that location. So we do that pretty quickly, and then we submit that to Indianapolis, usually done in conjunction with the local executive declaring the local emergency. And then usually within 48 hours or so, the Department of Homeland Security will send a representative or a team to the area, and then they will do a validation assessment. And then provided that they agree with everything we submitted, then they will allow the next step or the submission to the federal government, whether it be for FEMA if there's enough independent and public assistance criteria met. So they did that. They agreed with everything that we submitted. There were no discrepancies, and that submission was sent from Department of Homeland Security to the federal government. And I think it was 2 or 3 days. I don't remember now exactly when, but a team from the Small Business Administration, which is always the first step of federal assistance, was here and on site, and they did their validation survey, and they also concurred with everything that was submitted. So all the checks were in the boxes, and we are now in the process of waiting for that assessment to be verified in Washington at their headquarters. And once that is done, then they will send that notice back to Indiana and ask the governor sign the agreement for them to come and offer the assistance. So at that time, then we'll be approaching the mayor and asking him for some space for the SBA to set up shop, so to speak, And that's where the affected individuals will be able to come in and sit down and talk and actually file the application for assistance. There is also state disaster relief funds available. Those are not available in this situation because the federal, for the FEMA criteria was not met, or we did not sustain enough damage for that. It was not essentially as widespread enough. But in this particular case, for anyone who applies for the SBA assistance and is approved, then there will be no state disaster fund relief monies available. If they file for assistance from the SBA and are declined for whatever reason, then they would qualify for that state disaster relief fund assistance, which is capped at, I believe, $10,000 now. It was a little less than that, but I believe the most recent guidelines call for a $10,000 cap for that. If they are approved for the SBA loan and they choose not to take the SBA loan, that does not mean that they're then qualified for the state disaster relief fund. So the only way to trigger the state disaster relief fund is if you apply for the SBA assistance and are declined. The SBA or the Small Business Administration, but the assistance is low interest loans. And they're capped at like never more than 4%. The current rate, I think, is 0.7, 0.8%. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's right around, it's a little less than 1%, I believe. And it works a lot like a bank. It's not anything that I deal with directly, so I don't have a lot of the specifics, but it's just like going to the bank and asking for a loan. You know, your income, your credit is reviewed just like you would any other type of a loan. And then, but it is much more flexible as far as, you know, if there's additional liens on the property, those can be incorporated. And then, you know, if you're, as an example, paying a higher interest loan on that lien against that property, if you were to receive money for the damages, you could also take and essentially refinance your current existing mortgage at that same lesser rate. So it is of some benefit, but it is certainly not free money by any stretch of the imagination. So, but like I said, we're waiting on the SBA to notify us whether they agree with everything that's been done up to this point. I don't have any reason to believe that they will not, but I certainly can't say that until we get to that point. So until we get that notice.
Troy, thank you for being here tonight. We talked earlier and was talking about timing and the process we have to work through. The governor, I spoke with Governor Holcomb the day this happened, so he has been fully aware of what process we've been going through since that Saturday morning. And he has 60 days in order to actually request the disaster declaration by the SBA upon receiving more confirmation about the disaster assessment. So again, we're 2 weeks into this, and this is the process in which we're working through with the different state and federal agencies.
And it's exactly that.
Yeah.
It's maybe not a good process. It's not certainly not a convenient process, but nonetheless, it's the process that we have to deal with. So it's just a matter of doing the right thing in the right order and trying to get as much help as we can for those who are involved. So.
Troy, may I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
So really, depending on when we hear back from the federal government, our governor will have 60 days?
He said he has 60 days in order to request that the SBA make a disaster declaration, which would open up financial aid from SBA.
And that's 60 days from the time of the event.
Yeah, 60 days from the time of the event. Good clarification.
Oh, from the time of the event.
From the time of the event. There are thresholds that all the agencies will be utilizing to determine whether or not it reaches to the level of a disaster that would then make federal or state aid available. So that's why this process is, we're in the third round of verification with the damage assessment.
is it possible that that could happen more quickly? Or
Yes, it could happen more quickly if he got a damage assessment back from the SBA where they validated that the thresholds were satisfied, then he could do it quicker.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Troy, thank you. I may ask you to stick around in case other questions are presented. I want to ask Dave Adams here, who is on the board of Salvation Army and has been helping us coordinate the emergency relief efforts.
Good evening, Council. I'm Dave Adams. I live on Mulberry, someplace between Councilmember Jim and Councilmember Patrick there. Kaylee never knows where I am. I am a volunteer. I volunteer with the Salvation Army, but the captains are the ones that move the motion going through. I got calls at 3:30 that morning after the flood from personal people saying things. So I just started to do things on my own. Like I say, I'm a volunteer. Some people think I work out of the mayor's office, but I'm on my own. We've had several churches. I'm trying to get the mayor to call them churches and not faith-based organizations. It took a while to get them to stop talking about, what was it, the street people, well, instead of the homeless, they're street people. So this is, the churches are doing this. So we had New Life step up, we had 24/7 go in. They were starting to run out of money, so the Presbyterian Church with Jim and I. We got the Baptist Church. We have a network anyway where we do benevolence for the street people and those that are really having a hard time. So we had a little network going on. It's all a volunteer network. So we started talking and I called all the motels, trying to find out who was where. We've got several of our wonderful residents from Walnut and the others kind of helped to tell you, hey, this person's in a motel, this person's over there. So we started paying for their rooms, trying to take care of them, because a lot of them were really strapped, especially losing everything in their houses. Several residents were able to live upstairs and kind of survive in their own home. So we had probably at one time up to 10 in different motels, so we were trying to pay their room. I was out of town with my family when we got the call, so I called the restaurants. I called Harry and several other places, and Rosa and Scott said, can you let us come in and eat? They'll tell you what room they're in, what motel they're in, and then we'll have a family come in right behind and pay for it. So it really worked out pretty well. We started doing that, and there's some rumors flying out that people got kicked out, mainly because of regatta, and I want to dispel that. We've had some renters in the motel that just weren't very nice. We had, they went to Harry's for lunch and bought prime rib and fillets, and just that person had to pay for $300 worth of lunch. So it just, I'm doing a tough love thing like I do with the street people. If the others don't want to help out, I just say, okay, you can kind of do this thing. So we did ask several to leave the motel, mainly because the people that work for the motels were saying they're not taking care of things. They even took dogs in and pets. We even took care of the pets from all the families. So a lot of things going on in the motels, and they were phenomenal. And I know Regatta came along, they didn't have to raise the rates, not as much, but Nikki and Ann gave us rooms even though Regatta had sold out. So we were able to take care of those that needed it. We're down to maybe 3 or 4 in the motel now. One's a wonderful gentleman, Raymond, I will tell him. He lived in the basement, one of the homes, lost everything, and he lost his dog the next day. Yeah. He's got a little job at a laundromat, and just, you know, we're giving him rides back and forth. So there's some families we still need to reach out to, and I've reached out to a Presbyterian disaster fund to try to find some things, so maybe find a little apartment. Kenny and Debbie down on Mulberry, they were up to 4 feet in their water. We got them, they were in the motel, we took care of food, and now they have an apartment, and was gracious enough to find an apartment for them. So we're slowly finding out. There's one family that has a camper, and I talked to the mayor and the chief. Can we put the camper down there until they can kind of get set up? So we got a little network going, but again, it's all a volunteer thing going on. There were some rumors about looting. I work a lot with the street people. We have 3 new street people in town that are kind of aggressive. We're going to work with the chief, see if we can get them out of here. But it's they're going on looking for doors, they're unlocking things, they're trying to go in. That's where they do their drugs and things like that. So we're telling the residents, please be careful, even though you're not there. We're trying to watch it. The police have been going through, just making sure they're okay. So we do have the street people still in mode. I get a lot of calls. They want motel rooms. I said no. We're taking care of the flood people first. So we've had some good success. A lot of the families that have been in the motel were very grateful. We took care of the kids, took care of the dogs. But the thing is, where do we go from now? We got well, we and a couple of the others are trying to help them, because I don't think they have anyone to turn to, they don't have anywhere, so we're trying to find a way to try to take care of them in the longer term. Most of the churches have run out of money, so we're in a spot now, what can we do? The Salvation Army tried the shelter. One thing, we don't have showers, we don't have laundromat there, so it's a lot of people don't like to stay there. It's comfortable. We've got a family down in, living in rags to riches. Aaron Grubbs, phenomenal, he just bought that, and it's really nice. So he was flooded, lost a car too, I guess, but he's got a family living there, and we're trying to take care of him, trying to get him some cots. I just talked to the Red Cross tonight, they're bringing cots in, try to take care of that. And there's 3 families next to him. Our main concern was, for me, we're veterans. I want to make sure our veterans are taken care of in that area. I know most of them, we give them rides to the VA and this and that, so we have 2 that we're trying to work with. The rumor came down the pipeline that we've got veterans sleeping on the floor and all kinds of things, so I wanted to dispel that. So I took the captains from the Salvation Army, we were down and went through with them and found out there are people sleeping on the floor. We've done some cots and things like that on the north side of Walnut, so it's, they were hit pretty hard too. So we're making that, we're doing there's a family needs a refrigerator and an oven tonight. I'm trying to find somebody that will help me. We'll move that and we'll get them in. We have to get it out tonight over at Carl's Landing. They're going to donate a couple items to it. So a lot of things are going on. It's like I say, it's a volunteer thing, but I really appreciate all the help, especially with Andy and the rest. We've had food at the Salvation Army that they can take with them. The crews have been working there, have done a phenomenal job. We talked to Ron Bateman down at the hotel. They had carpet, phenomenal carpet. I'm anxious to see what it looks like in there, but he had a 900-pound roll to donate to the families. The only place we could find was a guy called Scott Coleman up at the New Life, and we touched it up there, and we've got it up there so the families that need carpet, and some of them are excited about it, we can cut what they need and take it down and we can install it for them. So a lot of things have been donated, trying to pull it all together. Salvation Army now is opening up the thrift shop. We have a new manager, so hopefully we'll have more clothing for them, we have other things, and Red Cross is taking some cots down to families that are sleeping on the floor. So it's been a phenomenal, we have a phenomenal community, and just things are stepping up. Our big concern is what goes on from here, like Troy said. I'm asking for more help from some of the churches, so we take care of those that don't have any help. So it's been an interesting 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Dave, can I ask you a quick, first off, thank you for everything you do. You do great things for Jefferson County. We appreciate you, Madison. I know, I'm not on, sorry.
You're on down there.
I know that there was a fundraiser,
Yeah.
and I'm not sure, does that tie in with anything that happens here, or was that a totally different group?
Well, we were up there with it. I think several of them did that. We had a pouring down rain, and it was there. It was amazing. I don't know how much was raised. Have we heard?
I think Barry Burleson, who's one of the musicians,
Yeah.
they did a fantastic job. It did
Yeah.
rain, but it was pretty well attended throughout the day. I think they raised around $3,000, although we are not controlling how any of that money
Sure.
gets dispersed.
Yeah, I actually did.
So we're
meet-
grateful for all of their help.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I did meet with him because I wasn't able to attend the event.
Oh, good, yeah.
I think it was 3,800 when I
Okay.
spoke with him last,
Okay.
so it's a little higher.
Great.
I just wondered if I didn't know how that was, they're doing their own distribution, okay.
Yeah. That's the hard thing, trying to coordinate that, it's between Salvation Army, the Red Cross, and all the other groups coming together at the churches. We have several churches down there, the Southern Baptist group that's come here to help with the buildings and repairs, so there's so much going on, and we're trying to coordinate some. I'm trying to do the food and stay and lodging and things like that, so it's a good point. We've had volunteers that have donated money. We probably put about $7,000 into motels and foods and things like that, so it's just an outpouring of love. Our church had an extra collection, and people really donated, and I really appreciate that. People stepping up, saying, hey, let's help. But our concern now, like Troy said, is where does it go from now? The residents are still on. I know Andy's still living with her parents. We've got other things, Bev's down there. That just we need to kind of keep that momentum going somehow.
Dave, thank you very much. And what involvement is the American Red Cross having with you, Dave? Just curious if you're coordinating with them, and I know that they had reached out to us as well, and we have provided them with through EMA all of the disaster intake forms that we collected a week ago when we had the meeting at the firehouse.
Yeah, It's a tough thing. The Red Cross is now regionalized, and Burke Fitzgerald's volunteer,
Yeah.
I guess gets paid a little bit, but he's really stepped up as our local contact. So it's, you know, we need the United Way to step up. We need all these others to kind of say, let's pull these groups together, because Red Cross and Salvation Army are part of the United Way. It'd be so nice to somehow coordinate this, so that we take care of the needs and say, hey, this person needs help here, this person needs help. So I think the mayor's trying to pull together the agencies and see what all we can do. So I think we appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Dave, one more thing. I'm sorry. I know you tried to walk away 3 times. If you're here
Kaylee
afterwards,
says that to me all the time.
if you're here after the meeting, would you just talk to me for just a few
I'll be
minutes?
glad.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Council, any other questions on this? While we have Troy's still here, and Dave, I know that several residents from Walnut Street are here. If you're here to talk about flood recovery efforts, and you have questions of either one of them, now would be a good time to ask in case they have to leave. Just ask you to, I know who you are, Jamie, but if you just reintroduce yourself.
Jamie Frazier, live at 905 Walnut Street. Just want to talk a minute about what was said earlier about the SBA loan option. In 2015, when I went through my first flood, I did qualify and received funding from that program. But what I want to tell you is, I will be paying back on that loan for 20 years. And now everything that I was able to purchase and replace due to that money, 2 air condensers for my central air and a furnace, were the big things that I was able to purchase. I was grateful for that, because when winter comes, you know, you have to have a furnace. So I was able to replace those things. But now we've had a second flood, and I've lost those things again. So I guess my point is, as this continues, and as we live with the possibility of it maybe happening again, I cannot go any further into debt to continue this cycle. And I worry about the people who will qualify for these SBA loans and use this money, much like I did, to try to get the things that they need replaced, only to find themselves in a shaky situation that this could happen again. My position right now is, even if I could qualify for yet another SBA loan, I'm not going to take that. That only further indebts me. That only, when the first flood came, I owned my home outright. I owned nothing on it. Now I owe the SBA for years to come. I can't possibly go further into debt with this program. So I know that they have presented this as an option. For some people it may be. But there are others of us who can't do that. This is not an option, not a realistic option, to go further into debt with the SBA. So I just want to make it clear that I'm going to continue to come here. I'm going to continue to see what the city is willing to do for me, because so far I filled out all the papers, I've come to all the meetings, and I have heard very little from the city, actually nothing. The people that have helped me have been co-workers and just citizens from the town of Madison. Those are the people that have helped me so far, and no one else. Going forward, I'm scared to death. I do actually have some flood insurance money coming, but I'm scared to death, because just like I did last time, the work to make myself even partially whole would be coming from me, sweat equity. That's the only way that you can do these things. I put in all those walls, I sanded them, I patched them, I did all that work myself. And I spent last week tearing all those walls out again. So I don't even know if I want to do this again. You know, I stand before you, a woman that's old enough not to want to, you know, sand and plaster and all that at the end of a work day all over again, and that's where I find myself. So all I'm trying to make you realize is this SBA business, while it will be helpful for some, it's not an option for some of us. And I worry for some people that will take advantage of it and then find themselves where I find myself today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I live at 911 Walnut Street. I've seen it both professional and personal side of this. I'm the case manager also down at Salvation Army. That's why Dave kept
Would
saying
you
my
introduce
name.
yourself, Annie?
My name is Andrea Wooten, and I live at 911 Walnut Street. That is where I live. My only question was I was wondering where you were with the water situation on our water bills. Because I can tell you, I don't know how much water hose I have used, how much water I've used scrubbing my home down, and I know right now our water is going to be way up there, and we're still paying on our home even though we don't live in it. We're still paying for, we have to shut off our electric or what electric use we use when we're in there cleaning our home. We have to pay for our water when we're cleaning our home. Those are issues that are still there, and we're still trying to build our lives. I'm also a mother of 2, and I have 2 dogs. I work, my husband works. We've lived on Walnut for 11 years. This is my second go around too. So what I'm asking is how are we supposed to live and take care of our home on top of paying bills that we don't even live at right now? Technically, we don't live there. We're stuck cleaning up a home that's there. Yesterday, I hung out in a basement. I dug out a basement, and it did not smell pretty. That's after cleaning the upstairs. And yes, I've been blessed with a little bit of flood insurance, but like she said, hard work and sweat goes into the fixing up those homes. And yet again, convincing my children to walk into that home, that's going to be the hard part. And I really wonder where our security is going to be when we go back in. And I don't want to hear, I know we're in a flood zone, it is what it is. Because somewhere along the line, we have to matter. Because I have an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old at home that I have to try to talk to on a daily basis that this is okay. Going back into our home. And in my headspace, I don't even want to be there. So, you guys have kids. Think about it in your shoes. How would you deal with your kids in this situation? And how would you make them safe? And what would you do? Because really, homeowners right now, we're in trouble because who wants our houses? We're still here. And that's the reality. Renters get to go. Renters get to move. Renters get to go and take their things. Homeowners do not. Homeowners, we're stuck in a spot at this situation, having to rebuild in hopes something happens to help us, that there's not torrential rain and whatever else causes a flood in your home again. And I speak on with her and everybody else that goes on that street. If you've lived it once, you don't want to live it again. I mean, I've been through a front door, I've been through a window. I've been on a boat twice. That's something I really don't want to say. So, I mean, put yourselves in our shoes and think about that before you think that, oh, we can't figure out these channels, we can't figure out these water situations. That's really the placement and the issues that are here too. And I don't know where that's at, but I want some sense of security as a mother, and also just to be home, because I can't stand my house right now.
Thank you, Andy. Well, I know how hard this is. I mean, I really do. It is also very complex and complicated. And we don't have all the tools at our disposal to make it better for everybody. So this is a hardship that you guys are experiencing personally, and we're trying to help solve and mitigate. There's the short-term aspects of it and the long-term aspects of it. And as I mentioned a week ago when we had the meeting at the firehouse, it is multi-jurisdictional. There are things we may be able to do to help in the short term, particularly working with Red Cross, Salvation Army, United Way, OVO, other organizations that can help provide the temporary solution. The long-term solution is just that. It's long-term and very expensive. That's what, and we're not equipped to do that. Today, we're not equipped to do that. You know, those are things that take long-range planning and engineering and financing. But that's what we're working on now. That is part of our long-term recovery plans. And, you know, Jane Grady was here last week, and we met with her and a whole group of different volunteers organizations who assist in disasters. You know, their advice here is we need to create our own local chapter of that so that we can respond better during emergencies, whether it's a flood or a tornado or any other type of disaster. And those are the things that Troy and I and others are talking about. Because that's not the government basically doing it, that is volunteers who are organizing to assist in disaster. That's the next level we got to get to in this, and that's also long range. And we're trying to create an apparatus to help mitigate, not prevent, mitigate another disaster that will happen sometime in the future. So it's responsible. That's the responsibility I take. Homeowners also have a responsibility to do whatever they can as they rebuild to mitigate future disasters. And that's why it's so complicated, because it's part financing, it's part, it's part what do you do, what can you afford to do, how do you do it, and that's what this team from BOAD helping do that down there at Walnut Street will assist with. We've gone through 3 to 4 different damage assessments. And we're working, like I said, multi-jurisdictional. I've got meetings set up with Corps of Engineer, DNR. We're arranging a stakeholder meeting with the other organizations here to help provide emergency relief. It just isn't. It doesn't. The solutions don't reside here. The solutions reside out inside and into the community. And we got to get all the stakeholders at the table in order to make a difference that will be impactful. And there's just multiple stages and processes associated with it. Any other comments or questions on this part of it? Hearing none, we'll move on to bills on second reading.
Next ordinance on second reading is ordinance number 2021-8, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, vacating a right-of-way in the City of Madison, Indiana. And this is dealing with a right-of-way located at 1708 Craigmont. Now, this is sponsored by Amanda Breach.
I know we have representatives here from the petitioner. Mr. Johan, you want to come to the podium in case there are questions for you, but this is an opportunity for council and anybody in the audience to talk with Mr. Johan about his petition for this partial right-of-way vacation. Council, do you have any questions for Mr. Johan? Good evening.
Okay.
Good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from anyone in the audience with regards to this proposed ordinance? Please come to the podium and identify yourself.
I'm Mary Thompson at 909 and a half Walnut Street, and I need one of them papers. I didn't get one. Oh, you don't have to have one?
I'm sorry? What is it you're looking for,
For
ma'am?
this right here?
The agenda?
Yeah, I didn't get one of these, and I was just wondering
Okay.
what it was.
There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. Thank you for coming, Mary.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and move on to third reading for ordinance 2021-8.
I'll second.
Do we have a roll call vote on that?
Kavanaugh? Yes. Breach?
Yes.
Lucy DeTillo?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Dan DeTillo?
Yes.
It's unanimous of all members present. So we're on to the third reading of ordinance number 2021-8, an ordinance of the Common Council of the City of Madison, Indiana, vacating a right-of-way of the City of Madison, Indiana. We have a roll call.
Kavanaugh? Yes. Creech?
Yes.
Lucy DeJillo?
Yes.
Bartlett?
Yes.
Dan DeVillo?
Yes.
That passes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Johann. Thank you. Welcome to the council. Council, I'm not aware of anything that would rise to the level of being miscellaneous, unless council has anything they'd like to share with the community. Now we'll move into public comment section and invite anybody here who wants to address the mayor's office and city council. Come to the podium, identify yourself, name and address, and what you'd like to share with us, please.
Hello, council. My name is Mike Greco, 1106 East Street. I have one question that this lady here was asking about the water bills, the high water bills. Last year I had a water pipe break. It flooded my cellar. For 4 days I was out of town, didn't realize it. The water company was decent enough, they worked with me. They charged me for the water, but not the sewer. I think that's where the expense is the sewer. And maybe the water company could again take a look at that with some of the people on Walnut Street, maybe foregoing that sewer charge and just charge them for the water. I think that would help a lot.
We do have a policy on adjustments, and that is, I think that's a good recommendation. I appreciate you mentioning it as well.
Okay. The second thing is, I don't know about Dave Adams' wonderful street people, but 3 houses up, as soon as you turn it off Allenbach on East Street, we have crackheads and homeless people that are living in 2 abandoned RVs. One RV now is at the point that the siding is ripped off and the pink insulation is hanging out. Now those RVs, from what I understand, have been in the city for almost 25 years. The owner of the property lives in Columbus. And I was wondering if there's anything that we can do to see about getting those removed and making it a little bit safer. We have people pushing grocery carts up the street now. It's starting to get where the homeless are coming up that way, and it's starting to cause problems. I called one behind my property, another one going through the trash cans. Like I say, is there some kind of ordinance or something we can look at as far as those RVs? And
Mike, where did you say they were located at?
It's
So they're on Allenbach?
If you go to Allenbach, turn left onto East Street.
Oh, east.
Go 3 houses up. There's a gentleman's got a real nice front yard, has flowers, a rock garden, it's beautiful. The house right next to it, it's got 2 RVs, and I talked to him.
You're talking about Northeast Street toward your house?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
And the other thing is you see it from 421, everybody that comes, everybody came to the regatta, saw those RVs sitting there. And now it's at the point that the aluminum's being stripped off, I assume for recycling, and the insulation's just hanging out. And I just wanted to bring that up and see if there's something we can do about that.
Definitely we have an ordinance that two things. One is you can't camp inside city limits unless it's zoned properly. And then secondly, you can't park an RV on a city street. So if you're suggesting that
Well, they're in the backyard.
They're in the backyard, but they're living in them?
Well, the homeless are.
And then we also have a nuisance ordinance, so that there are 3 ways we can explore a solution to that, Mike.
All right, thank you.
Do you have any idea if the owner of the property receives any rent or any?
No, they're 2 rental houses, they're vacant now.
Okay.
But he has a gentleman here in Madison that takes care of, cuts the grass. I haven't looked up, as far as the tax record, to see who owns it. The fellow wouldn't let me know.
We'll see it when we go on Northeast Street.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jan Gatreus. I live at 701 East 2nd Street, and my mom and I own the house on 711 Walnut Street. So I want to just bring about 3 different things, or maybe more, together, and urge you to hire a civil engineer for the community. Now, it could be a contract with a civil engineering firm, but we need to have a civil engineer trained that can be the advocate for the community with NDOT, with DNR, with FEMA, with all of these agencies. People that aren't trained civil engineers cannot adequately protect the community from people that are looking after themselves but not looking after us. It's very hard without that professional knowledge to handle NDOT construction projects, new swimming pools at $2.5 million, flooding and long-term solutions without anyone on staff that actually has that professional training. And I speak from a lot of experience. My father was a city engineer. His firm was contracted by a town about the size of Madison. The firm was in Albuquerque, which was the Indianapolis of New Mexico, but the contract the city had with his company was there would be an engineer in City Hall representing the town of Carlsbad. So I think we could do the same thing here, and I think it's critical when you look at all of Main Street that's going to be the city responsibility. You look at this figuring out how not to have catastrophic floods on Walnut Street, and you figure out how to manage a $2.5 million swimming pool project. And there are other things going on. I just think it's critical that we have someone trained professional who can handle these things. And my last little thing is, has NDOT finished the project on East Main Street and East 2nd Street, because all the construction signs are still up, no parking signs are still up, and who is doing the sign off with that project? It's great, we love it, but I'd like to know if it's signed off